Hello boys and girls. This week you're going to be learning about map reading and map skills. So different types of maps are used to show many types of information. Some types of maps include political maps, physical maps, population maps, climate maps, agriculture and industry maps, and topographic maps. Political maps show the borders that divide cities, states, or countries. Some maps use different colors to show the separate states or countries. The map below shows the states in the southeastern part of the United States. This might look familiar to some of you guys if you remember when we learned about the southeastern United States. So some of the names of these states might look familiar to you. Of course, this is only a part of the entire United States map. Physical maps show the Earth's landforms and bodies of water. The maps use lines, shading, tints, spot elevations, and different colors to show elevation and distinguish physical features. The map below shows physical features found in the state of California. So it tells you what the state is here by giving you a title to this here map. You can see that all the different physical features that are listed on it are things like rivers, lakes, mountains. It even labels the Pacific Ocean over here. It tells you which direction is north. And it gives you a helpful key over here that labels everything and tells you where you can find it based on the color. Population maps use colors or symbols to show how many people live in different areas. The map below shows the population density of the greater New Orleans area. The areas colored in red have more people living in them than the areas colored in green. So at the bottom, for you to tell what the population density is, they give you a scale that's based on these colors. So if it's more towards the green end of the scale, it's going to be a lower population density, meaning not that many people living there. But as you get closer to the color red, it's going to be a more condensed area, meaning a higher population density or more people living there. So this red area has a lot of people living there. This dark green area doesn't really have that many people living there. Climate maps. Climate maps show what the Earth's climate is like in different areas. The maps use colors or symbols to show the different climates. The map below shows the different climate zones in Australia. So maybe I wanted to look at the map of Australia and see where the deserts were, meaning where it was really hot and dry. I would have to look at the key over here to see where you can find the deserts. And next to it, it has the color orange. So I know when I look at this map, I look at the orange areas to find where the deserts are. And they are right here in the center of that map. Agricultural/industry maps use symbols and colors to show the different industries or crops grown in an area. The map below shows the location of different industries in Indiana. Indiana is a state in the Midwest in the United States, and it says Indiana land use, meaning how do they use the land? Well, they use it for growing corn, growing wheat, manufacturing, raising cattle, and mining coal. And on the map, you can see all those different symbols in different spots, meaning that this is an area where they would grow corn. This is an area where they would mine coal, things like that. And topographic maps. Topographic maps show elevation, which is whether land goes up or down. These maps use contour lines, lines of equal elevation, to show elevation. Lines that are close together mean there is steep terrain, while lines far apart mean there is flat terrain. See the example below. So as you can see, there are these little lines going across it called contour lines. If they're spaced kind of close together, like you see here, that means that land is pretty steep, meaning like you're up a hill, or it's more of a steeper hill kind of region. Whereas when the lines are further apart here, it's flatter, so it's not as steep. Map elements. Map elements help us to read and interpret maps. The elements listed below show you how to understand map elements. For example, map titles. The title is usually located at the top of a map. It tells what the map displays. In the map above, United States of America is the title. So they put it right here at the top. Just like you would put the title of an essay at the top of your paper, you always put it also towards the top of a map and in much larger print so everyone can tell, oh, this is your title. A compass rose. Use a compass rose to find the cardinal directions on a map. The cardinal directions are north, south, east, and west. So you might have noticed on a bunch of the maps that we looked at the previous page had this symbol on it or something that looked kind of like it. N stands for north, S for south, E for east, and W for west. Key or legend. Use a map key or legend to see what the symbols on a map mean. The symbols show the locations of different places. So if you saw the symbol of a tree on a map, say of Lodi, it would be showing you that there's a park there. Scale. The scale shows that a certain length of a line equals a certain number of miles or kilometers. To find the actual distance in miles between two locations, measure the distance between the 2 points on the map. Use the scale like a ruler to measure distance. Remember that the answer is an estimate. So this would be at the bottom of, say, a map of your town. If you were holding a map of Lodi in your hands, it would be a small map, but you know that your town is quite big. So these kinds of things, a scale allows you to see what approximately would be the real distance in real life between 2 points. Grid systems. A grid system, also called grid map, helps to identify a specific location. It uses a set of letters and numbers to pinpoint a location on a map. For example, in the map above, St. Louis is in the I-12 grid. This is kind of tricky. Using a grid system allows you to find a specific location on a map, and the way that it works is like this. Let's say I wanted to tell you where to find St. Louis, and you were looking at the map and you couldn't find it. If I told you to find the letter I first on the left-hand side, and then draw an invisible line across, you would see that St. Louis falls on that line, but you would have to look all the way across. However, if I told you to find the point on the map where another invisible line intersects that I line, and I said you could start that line at the 12, if you draw a line down from the 12 and another line across from the I, the point where they intersect would be that city I was asking you to find. So that's a tough skill to learn, boys and girls, but it's going to be really helpful moving forward. So you're going to practice that. Map skills. Graphs, charts, timelines, and maps are sources of information. You should be able to organize and interpret the information that comes from these sources. Bar graphs. A bar graph shows different pieces of information for comparison. It might show how a single item changes with time, or it might show different items together. The graph below shows the population of the largest U.S. cities in 2006. According to the graph, the population of Houston, Texas was just over 2 million that year. So notice here's the title at the top, Population of U.S. Cities in 2006. Here's the number of people living in those cities. Notice it goes up by regular increments along the side here. And then on the bottom, it gives you a list of major cities. So the example they gave us was for Houston, Texas. As you can see, Houston, Texas is listed right here. Let's look at the little bar graph we have going on. That goes to about this line. If we follow that line all the way over, you can see that that line is 2 million. However, this little bar graph goes just above that line. So their estimation that the population of Houston, Texas was just over 2 million that year is pretty accurate. Circle graphs. A circle graph, also called a pie chart, is a way of showing the different parts of a whole. Each slice shows a percent number. Together, the numbers should reach 100%. According to the graph below, 1% of exports went to African nations, followed by 18% to Southern Europe, 26% to West Indies, 3% to Ireland, and 52% to Great Britain. Notice again, the title is here, Colonial Exports, 1768 to 1772. And here you have your pie chart with all of these different colors labeled by the country that got those exports. So if I wanted to see where the percentage for Ireland was, I would have to look for the yellow sliver of our pie chart. The yellow sliver is right here and it's labeled as 3%. So I know that 3% of the exports went to Ireland. Think of it kind of like a fraction, since the whole and the pieces of the whole all equal up to that 100% or that whole. A timeline shows events in the order that they happened. Timelines are read from left to right or from top to bottom. Dates are also usually labeled. For example, this timeline shows that the Panama Canal opened in 1914. So notice the years from longer ago start on the left, 1898, and it ends with a much more recent year, 1920. So along this timeline, you have dates and then the different events that happened during those years. Maps. A map shows an area of the world. It can show physical geography, which means natural features of an area, such as mountains and rivers. It can also show political geography, which means man-made characteristics such as countries or states. This map shows all the states in the United States. Again, that southeastern map from earlier will be around here, and this is the entire country split up into states, even Hawaii and Alaska. So now, boys and girls, you can keep looking back at this video if you need more reminders on different aspects that you're going to be practicing with, but I'd like you guys to try the practice questions over the next few days before you eventually take your test on this subject. All right, I hope this was very helpful for you all. Let us know if you have any questions.